Hey guys, welcome to another episode. Today is a big day for us. If you're just checking out the channel, thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. All of you that are returning, you know what day it is. Today we are going to see if we can get our freshly rebuilt engine that we've done twice now, if we can get it running. Last episode we had compression issues on cylinder number 1, which we found out was a bent valve. So we're going to make sure to put a link up here for that one. If you have not checked that episode out, please do. Now you guys are caught up to speed and see what's going on here. But we're going to see if we can get this thing running today. We're going to do a few checks before we do that. We're going to check our timing, make sure everything is lined up where it's supposed to be. All of our marks, we're going to show you how to do that. We're also going to check our valve clearances. We're going to do it on the exhaust and the intake. The intake we just did because of that valve replacement we did last episode, but we're going to double check anyway. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. And if you have problems with your valve clearances, are too tight, too big, and you need new shims, I'll show you how to replace those. There's a special tool, and it looks like this. It's a little fork looking thing. I'm going to show you guys how to use this. That way you guys can change out your shims on your valve buckets there. We'll cover all that when we get there. So hopefully we don't run into really any serious issues. Cross your fingers, send a prayer up that we don't have any problems. But I'm excited to get this thing started, so let's start looking at these things that we got to check off of our list. And then we can start turning the key and see what happens. Here we go. The first thing we're going to want to look at is our timing marks. I'm going to try and get you guys in here. I have the fan out so we can get a little closer of where everything is supposed to be lined up. That way we know that our timing belt is all set correctly and we won't have any opportunity to bend a valve and go through that whole ordeal again. So we're going to start on the bottom. This is our crank here on the very bottom. I'm going to get you guys in here around the hose. So you can see there's the 3 teeth and there's the white mark on our crankshaft is right in the middle. That's 0 degrees. So we want to make sure that's set up correctly. The next thing we're going to look at is our auxiliary shaft. It's kind of tough to see when I bring y'all in here. You see those 2 dots? These here, those 2 dots, they need to be pointing at this bolt. That's the spring tensioner for our bearing here. We want to make sure those are pointed straight at that. Now we know that's in time. As we come back out, the other thing we're going to check is our cam gears. Now these each have 2 dots on this one here and this one here, and you should have a pointer on the front, and that's where these point, here and here. You can also see these holes on the back. So those were, that's what these marks here are on the cam tower. Those should be, but those and those over here, it's kind of tough to see with this angle, but this points to the other 2 holes there. That's how we know that these are in time. So all of our marks are timed up and in line. So next thing we're going to do is check our distributor. We're pulling off our cap here. One thing to note is you look at the numbers on the top, 1, 3, 4, 2, and in the middle here is where our coil comes in. So the wire wraps around along the firewall here, up and around to the middle. So we're going to be pulling this cap off, and as we do that, if our distributor is incorrect, then that means that our rotor, the spinning thing underneath, should be pointing at the number 4 terminal under the cap. Not number 4 plug, but the terminal on the cap, which actually sits right here. So the first thing I want to show you is underneath the cap, you see those 4 gold terminals. Number 4, if we flip it over, is this front bottom one, this one here. My light won't get in the way. This one here, in the middle, that one. So if we follow that underneath the cap, that's this one here on the top, which means that number 4 is that top left terminal. So our rotor should be pointing to that terminal there. So we can see our rotor is a little off. So our distributor base is a little loose, so we can actually turn our base to face number 4. So what I've done, and what you should probably do as well, is mark number 4 on the bottom. I just follow that all the way down as an imaginary line. My little cutout is, you can see my number 4 mark is there on the cap. So what I've also done is transposed that onto the base of the distributor. So I come around here, you can see I've got a black mark on the distributor there where number 4 is. So we are a little off of that timing mark. So with our 17mm nut on the bottom loosened just a little bit, we can actually turn the base of the distributor to get that rotor pointed to that mark. And we're a little ahead, but these engines do like a little bit of timing adjustment, not right on. And we'll fiddle with that with the timing light if we and when we get to that point of this thing running. So as for now, we're going to get those marks lined up relatively close, just eyeballing it, and we are roughly there. We're going to call that good enough. It should fire like that. So we're going to get our cap back on, and we are all set here with our distributor. Next on our list is to check our valve clearances. So I'm going to pull off our intake here, our air intake, remove this hose here, and we should be able to slide this valve cover off. These should not be very tight. If you tighten them too much, you'll actually crack this cover. So these should be a little bit more than finger tight at best. And so we'll get these off, get this all pulled out of the way, and we can start getting our feeler gauges and checking these for tolerance. Alright, so I've got you guys in here at a kind of a funky angle, but what we're going to be looking for is the gap between the lobe on the cam and this little disc down here on the bucket. There, it's kind of hard to see with my finger blocking the light, but you want your cam lobe to be 90 degrees. This is according to the manual, 90 degrees from the position of the disc that sits on top of the bucket, the shim that's there. So what we're going to do is we have a tolerance between 0.018 and 0.12. These are our 4 ranges of gap. 1.2 being our biggest, 2.1 being our biggest, and 1.8 being our smallest. So you can do it either way. You can start smaller, work your way bigger until you start feeling resistance, or start at the top and work your way down. I personally like to go from the top down. So we're going to start with 2.1. It's going to be kind of hard. See if I can get you some light in here. Hopefully you can see that. That's better. So you can actually get feeler gauges that have a little 90-degree kick on them to kind of get into these funky angles. I'm going to do my best with y'all in here. And maybe I can get y'all all over the place, if you don't shake all over the place. See if I can get you guys. Here we go, that's a little bit better. So maybe I'll be able to get you guys in here and get this gap in here. So I make sure that's nice and flat. And we are, let me see. All right, so it's nice and flat in there, and you can feel it dragging on there. You see just a little bit of oil. So this one is a little big right at the top there. We're gonna go up a size to 0.22, and if it is still fitting with 0.22, which is outside of spec, we're gonna adjust that shim with our pack of shims, and I'll show you guys how to do that. But we're gonna go through all of these off camera really quick. It's gonna be really easy to do without having to show you one by one. But this is the position we want, and all we'll do is we'll get onto the crankshaft and move our timing belt one at a time, and just rotate the engine over and test each lobe in the gap there. You don't really want to take the belt off and do it. You run the risk of hitting the valves together in the cylinder, or even worse, running into the piston, and you damage it. So it's better just to keep the belt on and go around, rotate it one at a time, and check them all the way across. So let me do this one up. So this is 0.22, one size outside of spec, and we fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that tool. I'm going to rotate the engine to where the lobe is actually pressing down fully on the cup. I'm going to show you how to use that fork tool I showed you at the beginning on how to adjust that. So we rotated the engine all the way over to where the number 4 is pressed all the way flat. You see that cam lobe is pushing that bucket all the way down. So this is when that tool comes in. I'll make sure to put a link in the description for this tool. It's a huge lifesaver. But you come through the valley, so you start in the middle with the forks down like this. You're gonna hook around the cam, if I can finagle my way in here. Come from the other side. Much easier from this angle. That required 2 hands. So What I've done is I've gotten it over the top, and you're gonna hook it. I'm gonna see if I can get the light to show you. So when it comes around, it's gonna sit just like this, and it's going to expose access to that shim, but keep the bucket down. So we're gonna rotate the engine back to get that low pressure off, and it'll keep that bucket down. So you can see how that bucket stays down, and there's a little access tab right here on the bucket. Now you'll need a small pick. I even have a shaved down screwdriver for something like this. You can get it down into that crevice and pop it out. But for the sake, I'm going to use the pick to show you guys that it does come out. You see the shim kind of pops out here, just like that. You'll take a little magnet, like this one here, and you'll be able to pull that shim out. A little bit of encouragement, like that. And the size of that shim is on the bottom. So you see that one's a 3/8. And I ended up going with our feeler gauge, and we got all the way up to a 2.4, a 0.24. So we were out of spec by just comfortably 0.05. So if we go up one more size, so a 3.85, go up to make up that difference. We'll put it in there, we'll rotate the engine over, that way it fully seats in that bucket, and then we'll be able to see what our new clearance is. So here is our shim kit. I got the entire kit when we did the cylinder head rebuild. I'll make sure to drop a link for that one up here, where we did our initial measurements, and we're just doing some adjusting here. So out of our kit, we can see we have a 3.85, so it'll be right here. So we put the 3.8 back, grab a 3.85, and there we go, 3.85. So we're gonna go back, we're gonna get this in the bucket. Wow, that actually went right in. It's pretty good talent right there. So we've got that back in there. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna rotate the engine to have that cam lobe pushed down on the bucket again, remove our tool, and then we'll go back to TDC where everything is back lined up where it's supposed to, and check our clearance. So we can see again our lobe is 90 degrees from our valve shim, and we've got our two specs out here. So we've got a 2.1 and 2.2. I'm gonna start at the 2.2, which is out of spec. So in theory, if we did this correctly, we should not have this fit. Yeah, that doesn't fit. So we're gonna go down to the 2.1. And if the 2.1 fits, we're technically within spec, but that's still a little too big. Let's see, 2.1. Yeah, so that fits. So we are just at the top of our spec. So what I think is gonna happen is once we get this car running again, we'll let it run for a bit, do a couple heat cycles. Then we'll come back and recheck all of our valve clearances to make adjustments again. That way all of these can fully seat, get broken in, and then we'll see where we're at. But at the top end, it's a little too big for me, even though it's within spec. I'd like to be more at the 1920 gap there. So we're within spec just to get this started, and we can always make an adjustment later. So we're gonna go through the same process to make sure we're all good on all these lobes, slowly rotating the engine. We'll go to the intake side, which should be just fine because we just did it, but we'll double check. We're gonna get this all checked out, get it all reassembled, and then we can put the battery in the back and start cranking the key and see what we get.
All I want
Now that all of those valves are within spec, we can start putting the battery in. It's a good thing we checked, especially our exhaust side. 2 of them were just slightly too big, as the one that I showed you guys, and the number 3 was slightly too tight. It was 0.002, too tight. So we went down 1 size to open up that gap, and we are right within spec, so it's a good thing we did that. It's nice to have that big variety pack of shims. They do cost a little bit, but it's so nice knowing that you can just quickly switch them out and you don't have to order one, try it, and it doesn't work. So I definitely recommend getting the whole kit. It makes your life so much easier than you have them forever, literally. So yeah, we're all within spec now on this. Let's get the battery in it, and let's start turning the key. We'll re-hook up our air intake, all that good stuff, and see what happens. All right, the battery is on. Nothing's smoking. That's a good start. But all right, let me grab the keys. Let's do this. Come on, come on. So the first thing I see on our fuel pressure gauge is nice and high. We're looking for 33 to 39 psi of fuel pressure, so those injectors will fire. And it seems like we're not quite on the time, so it's a good thing we left our distributor loose, and we're just going to tweak that little by little, and hopefully we'll get there. We got a puff on that one. That's a start. Now we're turning our distributor away from our rotor. We're advancing the timing. And these cars really like up to 15-20 degrees of advanced timing. So we're going to try that and see where we're at, and maybe we'll have to go backwards, forward. It's just trial and error until we get one going. The other thing I'm looking for is fuel leaks, because we do have a higher pressure than just a carbureted car, which is 3 to 5 psi, and we are running that 35, 40 psi. We want to make sure that we don't have any leaks on all these clamps, because that'd be very bad to have a fire right off the bat. That sounded pretty good. We're getting a lot closer on that timing. All right, here we go again. We're right there. So we finally hear that exhaust. After we did that exhaust install, I'll put the video up top for that for you guys. But that exhaust sounds really good, and we haven't even started it yet. We're right there. How about that? Just baby tweaks at a time, baby tweaks, baby tweaks. It wants to go. So right there. Alright, so we're still chasing it a little bit, but we got some fires off there. It's just going to take some more tweaking and things like that to see what it's really exactly going to take to get this thing to stay in idle. So we're going to work on that. A little bit of tweaking here and there on the timing. I mean, for all we know, we got to adjust our mixture screws as well, because those are just in their base settings all the way out or all the way in, depending on which screw you're looking at. So we're going to start tweaking with that. And maybe we'll get some action. I do have the alternator belt off. I'm trying to create as minimal drag as possible, especially on this first start, because we're going to be continuing to do this. So the less work the engine has to do, the longer our battery will last and our car will thank us. So we're making huge progress. We got some fire out of it, and we're like right there. So we're going to keep working, and we're going to get this thing idling. I know it. It's been like 30-45 minutes, so we're going to keep giving it a shot here. One thing I keep noticing though is our fuel pressure drops pretty quickly, but that could be just because we're not quite in time yet. Makes me kind of nervous because this aftermarket fuel pressure regulator, I mean, it's not probably the best thing ever. I just like seeing the dial to know exactly where we're at. So we may have to go back to our original one, just disconnect all this and put our old one back on. But we're going to keep running with this, see if we can get it going. We're like really close, gave everything a nice good break. So this bolt is loose. Oops, you tighten that up. But we're going to keep going here and see if we can get lucky. Well, that was exciting. We're probably flooding the heck out of these cylinders with all this gas from the injectors, just constantly dumping it in there and nothing happening yet. So we are getting there. Open this up a little bit. Just a touch more there. And the good thing is our oil light turns off like really fast. We have really good oil pressure. Barely starting the starter and the light turns right off, so that's a really good sign. And it revs up like crazy. So it could be a couple things. We could have a massive vacuum leak. So we probably need to check all these bolts, make sure they're actually on there nice and tight, like this one's loose. Make sure those are all the way down. Make sure everything is capped off. Make sure all of our clamps are tight. This is all the way on, yes. All the way in, yes. Our brake booster, oh, maybe because our brake booster hose is attached to nothing. It's attached here, but it's not attached on the brake booster. So we've got a really massive vacuum leak because this is attached to nothing. It's supposed to go to that fitting right there for our brake booster. We're attached here, so I assumed it was attached there, but it's definitely not. So we're massively over revving because of a massive vacuum leak. So I'm gonna plug that up, tighten these up, and try again. So now that we don't have a massive vacuum leak, I bet we're probably going to start a lot better now. So let's try this again. We are running amazing. Look at that, right out of the box. Oil pressure's off. We don't have our alternator turned on. No black. give it a little rev. What was that? Oh. Thing fell. So much vibration it fell off the shelf. Now that's an exhaust. Oh yeah. That is what I'm talking about. Now you see all this smoke, don't be alarmed. There is, when we put in our distributor, oil dripped on the exhaust. So, you can see it's coming off the exhaust here. All the smoke. Yeah, right under where the distributor is, all that oil is burning off that got on there. Let's grab our, I think I have my thermal. Where is it? Here it is. So we're gonna take this is my thermal laser gun. And this is a really good way to see if all 4 cylinders are firing. So all 4, if we know they're firing, should all be relatively the same temperature. Okay, a little cool. Even. Okay, so all 4 are firing, which is great. Our timing is a little off. We can adjust it. We'll get a timing light on there. We'll fire back up. We do have coolant in here, so don't worry. We do have coolant. I'll probably want to hook up the fan just in case. But the thing is, with the timing, you really want it to be warm. Go through a few heat cycles, then start setting timing after it's being warm. But man, I'm like shaking in this exhaust. So good. It broke a freaking picture. So good. But sorry, buddy. Who's this? Which one is? Oh, sorry, Dave Kindig. Kind of knocked you off the shelf there. Have to get a new frame for that. This is a good problem to have. I'll gladly take the aggressive exhaust. So that's great. This is our original fuel pressure regulator, and obviously our fuel pressure was just fine because we were able to stay running. I didn't take a look at the gauge, but it did seem like it was a little high, but it may like that. We'll have to get some dialed in on our nuts here, our adjustment screws, plug in our throttle position sensor. We're not going to be plugging in our cold start exhaust, our cold start valve. I'm probably going to tie this down underneath there, kind of hide it out of the way. But man, that is so exciting. And it's like all that hard work twice. It runs. So I just don't know what to do next. Let's put our alternator belt on. That way when it runs, it'll charge the battery and get that going. And we know it's good. It's our brand new alternator, so we shouldn't have an issue there. It's all connected. Just got to put the belt on, put our fan on, check our temperature because we have just water in here. So we want to watch our temperature gauge as we cycle it. We'll probably want to push it out of the garage. That way we don't fill this place up with carbon monoxide. And even though the fans are going, just push it out. Unfortunately, it's like super bright out here, and I'm gonna get a sunburn. So we're just gonna have to live with it. But this is exciting. Let's put that belt on. Let's do this stuff and let's get it out and let's let it run and see what our temperature gauge tells us as we let it run. Probably bring down that idle. We're looking for about a 850, 800 idle range. So we were pretty close. But man, that's exciting. So exciting. All right. Take a second. Let's do those other things. Let's get it out. We'll probably put up our little pop-up tent. I think I got it up in the shelf so we can be under the shade, but so good. So now that we've got it running, we can actually finally test our transmission. We're gonna roll this thing forward. I've cleared out the driveway. I'm gonna set y'all at the end and we're gonna see how good this goes. Our brakes are all new, so hopefully those will work still, because we did that a long time ago. We cannot go on a first drive yet if the transmission works, because we have to tighten our suspension. If you remember way back in the beginning of the series, I'll make sure to put a link up here for that. We redid all of our suspension, but we kept it slightly loose just because we need to get full weight in the car. That's before we had the engine even touched of being built. No exhaust, no block is in there, the seats weren't in there. This car is relatively complete now, minus, you know, maybe 15, 20 pounds worth of carpet and door panels. So we cannot go on a full drive until we do that, but we can safely go down the driveway. It's tight enough for that. So we're gonna see how this transmission works. We're gonna get it down the driveway. I'm gonna set y'all out here and we'll see how it goes. If it does go just fine, then maybe we'll roll it back in really quick, let the engine cool off again. We'll get it up, get the wheels off, and start snugging up all the suspension parts. That way we could go on an actual cruise around the neighborhood maybe, or just, you know, down the block and back. It has insurance and everything, so it is road worthy and road legal. So let's see how it goes. It runs, it drives. Let's get it up in the air. Let's get that suspension tightened up so we can go on a road test. All right, so we're gonna put in some weight in this car. We're gonna get, I think I got like a big old jug of purple power. I've got like an extra transmission, whatever real weight I can find to put in this car, which should be roughly around 250 pounds. I'm sure it's gonna be some sort of science where you need like 100 in the back, and then the weight of a driver and the weight of a passenger, and so we're just gonna balance it out however best we can. But we want to get it up in the air with the wheels off. That way we can get to the control arms and where all those bushings are and really torque those to spec and get those tightened up. So we're going to zip through it. I'm going to put all sorts of weight in there. I think I've even got the block, the old block from our 850 project, which is like really old and sitting back there. That's a good weight. There's like a toolbox. I'm just going to throw all sorts of stuff in this because I want to hit the road. So let's just zip through it. all of our suspension is tight. We've got it all torqued all the way around. So we are all set here. We double checked everything, made sure we're all torqued, we're good. All the rods are on, all the bolts are nice and tight. Now this weight system, it's real, you know, real efficient, and I've got a patent pending, so don't try and copy it, but it works. We've got a transmission down here, a block, a spare tire, an 850 head. We've got all sorts of turbo wheels. We've got our Vick Autosports wheels here. If you haven't seen the video where we tried these on, I'll make sure to put a link up here for that one, for these. Even, you know, the exclusive JL Audio subwoofer box. So we've got it all efficiently weighted down. Is this 250 pounds? Probably more. Let's just say each wheel weighs 20 pounds. There's 9 wheels, you know, right there. That's 180. And we got a transmission and a driver's seat where you're most likely going to sit because you've got to drive it. Some passenger weight. We got a tub of Purple Power under here. I mean, we've got all the weight that we need in here. And hopefully when we put the wheels on, get it back on the ground, it'll be nice and level. But it's tight enough for a drive on the road, and that's what's important because I want to get out there and see what we can do. Our timing is not set perfectly. We might mess with that a little bit before we take off, but we're just going to go for it. And I'm going to remove all this out of the car, put the wheels back on, and let's get out there. I'm ready to hit the road, so let's get this all cleaned up. Alright, so ready to go for our first cruise. Everything is tightened up. Everything is where it's supposed to be. The hood is latched, trunk is latched, battery's on, the alternator belt is on. We're not going to go far. All we're going to do is there's like a dead end loop kind of thing by my house. We're going to go there. And one thing I'm really looking at is my temperature gauge. I want to make sure they're not getting too hot too fast. And if we do get close to that 190, that our fan kicks on. So if we're going to be out that long, it shouldn't even turn on, being that short of a distance, but we'll see, because there may be some air still trapped in that system. So let's do this thing. All right, here we go. Brakes feel good. Second. Complete stop. All that oil burning off coming through the transmission tunnel. Blinkers work. Third. Now we're creeping up to 190. We're gonna U-turn and head back to the house. Well guys, that's going to be the end of this episode. We got it to run and drive, which is awesome. It was perfect timing when we came home because the wife came home at the same time, so we were able to just come right on up. And one thing is, I do want to install a fan override switch under the dash, kind of hidden, to override the cooling fan. It didn't come on as we were just passing the 190 when it should, so we are going to do an override switch just in case in the future, construction, if there's traffic, whatever it is, that way we can turn it on early. But I think I might have had a couple connectors in the wrong place, and so I switched those around and that should solve the problem. But this is a big moment for us. We've got it on the road, we're driving, it starts right up without issue, and we're like on the real downhill of this project. Next up is going to be working on the interior, which is like a lot of the fun part. We already did the dash, and that's kind of cheating, but we wanted to do something to keep us motivated. So now we're going to work on the floors, fixing those rusty floors. I know a lot of you have pointed it out, so we're going to definitely take care of those and start working on door cards, carpet, the windows too. That's the other thing. We've got to work on the windows, getting those window tracks set back up, get the windshield back in, and then a convertible top. Our back window has a big old cut in it, so that's not going to do us any good if we get caught in the rain somewhere. And the last thing that I want to mention is this, is we still have drink sleeves and we still have shirts in stock. Shirts are $15. The drink sleeves are only $5. You can send me an email. I'll put a link in the description down below and right here on the screen at garagetimetv@gmail.com. Send me an email. I can get one shipped out to you guys. This really helps support the channel, buying parts, stuff like that. Now that we're working on the interior, we got to start working on saving up for that. So make sure you guys check out the merch. I really do appreciate it. It helps support the channel a lot, and as well as subscribing. So make sure you guys do that. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I really, really do appreciate all the support from you guys. And until next time, we'll see you.